도시는 세계와 연결되어 문화를 창조했고 새로운 것을 받아들였다.
함께여서 우리는 더 자유롭고 더 멀리 갈 수 있어.
닫힌 문이 아니라 열린 질문으로.
나에게 APEC은
자유,
융합,
국제성,
다양성,
포용,
개발.
신라의 정신이 APEC 2025로 이어집니다.
Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. A senior North Korean diplomat has addressed the UN General Assembly and insisted that the regime will never give up its nuclear program. This was the first time since 2018 that a high-ranking North Korean official has spoken from the assembly podium. Government system disruptions continue in South Korea, with many services still offline, following a fire at a key national data center last week. The government has been scrambling to restore services, but the recovery is expected to take longer than expected, with authorities now saying it could take about a month. President Lee Jae-myung will sit down for talks with Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba in Busan. This will be Ishiba's first and the last visit as Prime Minister, as he pledged to step down after less than a year in the role following election losses. We begin this morning with government system disruptions in South Korea. Following a fire at the nation's data center last Friday, some key functions such as postal and financial services are back online, but the overall recovery rate remains at around 13%. Our Park Hyo-bin starts us off.
After Friday's fire at the National Information Resources Service in Daejeon, the government is making all-out efforts to bring disrupted services back online. Authorities say public safety and property-related systems remain the top priority. Services such as those issuing resident registration certificates through the government.kr portal were brought back online on Monday. Korea Post also said fresh food parcel counters would reopen from Tuesday, following the restoration of postal and financial services ahead of the Chuseok holiday rush. However, South Korea is still grappling with the fallout. As of 8 a.m. Tuesday, only 85 of 647 disrupted government services had been restored, a recovery rate of about 13%.
I got my resident registration and family relationship certificate, but the main reason I came was for a fixed date stamp, and that service still isn't working.
Interior Minister Yoon Ho-jung apologized to the public on Monday, pledging swift alternatives.
The government is focusing all resources on restoring critical services as quickly as possible. However, 96 systems from the destroyed data hall cannot be immediately restarted, so we are transferring them to the Daegu Center's cloud system to secure alternatives as fast as possible.
The Ministry of the Interior and Safety estimates it will take at least 4 weeks to fully restore the 96 systems that were destroyed by the fire, as it relocates the data to its Daegu backup center. Services that provide disaster information, including the National Disaster and Safety Portal, have no alternatives, making user inconvenience unavoidable. Internal government networks like Onnara Cloud, used for daily administrative tasks, were also lost in the blaze, forcing some offices to rely on handwritten documents and worsening on-site confusion. The government also announced plans to disclose the full list and classification of all 647 systems affected by the fire.
We deeply apologize once again to the public. It is expected to take about 2 weeks to prepare the resources and another 2 weeks to set up the systems, but we aim to accelerate the process as much as possible with cooperation from firms already housed at the Daegu Center.
With prolonged disruptions inevitable, authorities are providing relief measures. September property tax payment deadlines have been extended, while fees for issuing resident documents are being waived. Updates on system restoration will be announced through major portals and press releases as service resume. Park Hyubin, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, a senior North Korean diplomat has said Pyongyang will never give up its nuclear program in a rare address to the United Nations. The comments come as the United States maintains its policy of complete denuclearization of North Korea. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
A senior North Korean diplomat has reaffirmed that Pyongyang will never give up its nuclear weapon, calling it a sacred and untouchable cornerstone of its sovereignty. Vice Foreign Minister Kim Sung-kyung delivered the remarks on Monday at the United Nations General Assembly in New York. It was the first time a high-ranking North Korean official had spoken from the assembly podium since 2018. Kim declared that the nuclear arsenal is enshrined in both North Korea's law and the Constitution, describing it as an absolute asset that guarantees survival. He also argued that calls for denuclearization amount to demanding that North Korea surrender its sovereignty and right to exist.
We will never give up nuclear power, which is our state law, national policy, and sovereign power, as well as the right to existence. Under any circumstances, we will never walk away from this position.
The speech came as the U.S. maintains its policy of complete denuclearization of North Korea. Washington has left the door open for talks with the regime, and leader Kim Jong-un has previously signaled conditional openness to dialogue. Still, the vice minister rejected any scenario where the nuclear program would be abandoned. Kim also criticized joint military exercises between the U.S. and South Korea and trilateral drills with Japan, describing them as real war simulations aimed at the North. He framed these activities as justification for Pyongyang's nuclear stance. However, the diplomat also hinted at openness to engagement. He said North Korea is willing to expand cooperation with countries that treat it with respect and pursue friendly relations, regardless of differences in political systems. The speech comes as both Seoul and Washington say they hope to re-engage Pyongyang in talks aimed at reducing tensions and advancing peace on the Korean peninsula. There's also speculation that President Donald Trump could seek to revive direct dialogue with Kim Jong-un during his upcoming visit to South Korea for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit at the end of October. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung is set to hold a summit with Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba in the southeastern city of Busan today. The two leaders are expected to discuss bolstering cooperation on tackling population decline and revitalizing regions outside their respective capitals, as well as on AI and hydrogen energy. Ishiba's return visit to Korea is part of the two countries' so-called shuttle diplomacy following Lee's trip to Tokyo last month. Ishiba is on a two-day visit to South Korea, which is his first and the last visit as prime minister, as Japan's Liberal Democratic Party is set to elect a new leader this weekend. So, as we just heard, a senior North Korean diplomat gave a rare address at the United Nations and said the North will never give up its nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba will be visiting South Korea today for his final trip before he steps down. For more on this, we're joined today by Dr. Joel Atkinson, professor at the Graduate School of International and Area Studies at Hanguk University of Foreign Studies. Dr. Atkinson, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, good morning. It's nice to be with you.
So this was the first time in 7 years that North Korea sent their senior official to deliver a speech at the United Nations in New York. What's your take on his UN speech?
Yeah, well, as a vice foreign minister, Kim Sung-kyung is, relatively low level. For example, the president delivered South Korea's speech, but still, as you said, this is a significant shift. I think the speech does two main things. The first is list the concessions that Pyongyang wants the US to make. recognition of its nuclear status, the end of military exercises with South Korea, and ultimately the end of the Korea-US alliance. And second, I think it opens the door for a kind of a reconciliation between North Korea and an increasingly China-centered United Nations. The speech recognizes the value of the UN and this kind of idea that can do better in the future, presumably starting with how it operates in relation to North Korea's nuclear weapons.
You see, and while a North Korean diplomat is in New York, just recently North Korean and Chinese foreign ministers, they met in Beijing. Could this signal a possible resumption of dialogue between North Korea and the United States?
Well, obviously at some point they will talk, whether it's during the Trump administration or 10 years from now. So it really depends on how high of a bar each side will set in order to resume public dialogue. What Pyongyang is doing is building solidarity with China and Russia, with its friends at the UN, in order to pressure the US to make those concessions. That means Pyongyang is setting a high bar for the US to jump. Will Trump be willing to clear that bar, or will Kim be willing to lower it if Trump isn't? Well, we'll see.
Right, and President Lee Jae-myung will be meeting Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba today. This is their first time in more than two decades that the leaders of South Korea and Japan, they're holding a meeting in South Korea outside of Seoul. This will be Ishiba's last visit to Korea as Prime Minister before stepping down. What does this tell us about today's summit?
Yeah, well, I think selecting Busan reflects Lee Jae-myung's efforts at what is called, regional revitalization. And yes, even though he only became prime minister in October last year, Ishiba will not be in that role for much longer. So I would point to two things regarding the summit. One is they see signaling cooperation as important to create some diplomatic leverage, not only with US President Trump, but also with China and North Korea. And they want to cooperate economically to create some scale relative to those giants, China and the US. And second is this general perception that cooperation is going to be more difficult under the next Japanese PM. Ishiba wants to reciprocate Lee's August visit to Tokyo while he can. And I think both probably hope to lock in some of that cooperation that little bit more.
Let's see, what might be some of the issues that might be discussed when they meet in Busan today?
Well, they'll certainly be promoting what's called a future-oriented relationship. That means each side being a bit softer on historical issues. So far, both sides have been willing to do that to an extent. After the first summit, President Lee told journalists that, it was just the first spoonful and you shouldn't expect to be full after having a first bite or you'll end up with indigestion. So now this is a chance for another bite, but it's unlikely that Ishiba will be able to offer too much, lest it provoke a backlash in Japan and set back that momentum. I expect President Lee will ask for support for his efforts to encourage Washington to talk to Pyongyang, and I expect Ishiba may want the South Korean side to re-emphasize that it won't be leaning in China's favor at the expense of Japan and the US over Taiwan and so on.
Right, and the next major diplomatic gathering will be the APEC leaders meeting here in Gyeongju with both Donald Trump and Xi Jinping expected to attend the event. What's your take on the possibility of a meeting here in South Korea between the leaders of the world's two largest economies?
Well, if they both come, they will presumably meet. I think we shouldn't read too much into it since they will be here for APEC, not to meet with each other. I think a bigger sign would be Trump going to Beijing. And I think, it's very hard to tell what's going on behind the scenes, but there's some signs they may be getting closer to some kind of deal on tariffs, etc. We won't know until we find out. And overall, the background, I think, is a kind of an increasing tension and conflict between China and the United States. So whatever happens here in Gyeongju is not, I don't think, is going to really get us into some different trajectory.
I see. All right, Dr. Atkinson, thank you so much for your time and insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. My pleasure.
In other news, the command ship of the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet, USS Blue Ridge, visited Busan port for the first time in more than 5 years. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung was invited to take a look at the ship and hear from its captain of the experience of taking part in recent trilateral drills between Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo.
Docked in the port city of Busan is a rare view of a ship, the USS Blue Ridge, the command ship for the U.S. 7th Fleet since 1979. Commissioned in 1970, the ship operates out of its home port at Yokosuka, Japan, overseeing waters around the Korean Peninsula as well as parts of the Western Pacific and the Indian Ocean. Flying the first Navy Jack flag, symbolizing the oldest active-duty U.S. Navy ship, this 19,600-ton ship has been fully deployed for her entire life, not once entering American waters other than Guam. A handful of reporters who were invited onto the ship to mark its first visit to Busan in more than 5 years were able to witness the ship bearing the marks of time but still boasting of formidable presence.
I'm currently standing on the helipad of the USS Blue Ridge next to a MH-60 Sierra helicopter used for search and rescue missions. This helicopter actually participated in the recent Freedom Edge exercise.
Through the Freedom Edge training, we strengthened our joint maritime operational skills. The port call also provided an opportunity for enhanced cooperation among our Joint Operations Command teams, further improving our joint operational capabilities.
Calling the ROK-US alliance a phenomenal relationship and cornerstone of both peace and stability in Northeast Asia, the commanding officer underlined that the recent joint exercise was more than just a drill.
These exercises have forged unbreakable ties, and the bonds are a commitment to our allies and other countries to ensure an open and free Indo-Pacific. One of the things that I will never forget during my career is looking behind and seeing the flags waving of both the Republic of Korean Navy and the Japanese with the U.S. flag as well.
USS Blue Ridge is soon to set sail from Busan port, but two navies' willingness to strengthen their joint defense posture can be seen through such visits. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Busan.
Shifting gears, U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have agreed to move forward with the U.S. leader's Gaza peace plan, raising hopes of ending nearly 2 years of war between Hamas and Israel. During a White House press conference on Monday, Trump said that if Hamas accepts the deal, all hostages must be released within 72 hours. The Israeli Prime Minister has already endorsed the plan, but the international community is now watching closely to see whether Hamas will agree. Both Trump and Netanyahu warned of sharp consequences if the militant turns down the proposal. The announcement comes as Trump unveils his 20-point ceasefire plan, which includes full aid immediately being sent into the Gaza Strip upon agreement. Starting this week, South Korea is looking to host more Chinese tourists with a visa-free scheme that will run until next June as a test, and businesses are already slowly warming up. Our Kim Do-yeon tells us more.
As announced in August, on Monday, Chinese tourists in pre-booked groups of 3 or more enter South Korea without a visa. They're able to stay for up to 15 days, with this scheme running until June 30th of next year. This is expected to increase Chinese tourists visiting South Korea, with levels already on the path to recovery to pre-COVID times. And for those who missed this chance and already entered South Korea, it's an easy way back into the country.
Although I came too early this time and had to get a visa, I definitely will visit more often now because of visa-free program. I had to spend time and money. The food is excellent, and the shopping environment is also very good.
More tourists, however, doesn't automatically equate to additional profit. It also equates to fierce competition. For duty-free stores in Korea, it's time to put up their best possible promotions and presents. This favorite K-food bundle pack comes in this bag with the word fortune written in Korean and Chinese on it. It's also red, a lucky color in Chinese culture. Promotions like this kicked off on Monday across the major players in light of the visa-free program. The duty-free stores are now raising their expected number of visitors.
We attracted a cumulative total of 80,000 visitors through August. With the visa-free policy now boosting group tours, we are targeting 140 visitors by the end of the year. To accommodate this, we are renovating our shopping spaces and enhancing experiential content so that customers leave with pleasant memories, not just products.
That optimism is spilling out onto the streets. Here in Myeongdong, stores are also competing to get the best out of the opportunity. And it's not just Korean local stores. Chinese payment system companies like Alipay and UnionPay are working to host more visitors with gifts prepared for those who use their service.
With the visa-free program, our company is hosting events here in Myeongdong. I hope everyone can have a good time and make good memories.
The government is expecting 1 million visitors from China by the first half of next year through this program. In addition, October is a typically popular month for Chinese tourists as it has China's national holiday in it. Last year, the number of Chinese tourists recovered to around 70% of pre-COVID levels. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and today is my final World Now. U.S. President Donald Trump unveiled a plan to put a tariff of 100% on all films produced outside the United States, following an earlier threat in May. Details on when or how the tariffs could be enacted have not been specified. On Monday local time, Trump posted on social media that every movie made outside of the United States will face a 100% import duty, accusing other countries of having stolen America's film business, just like stealing candy from a baby. He singled out California and the state's governor, calling them weak and incompetent in managing the industry. Industry observers raised immediate concerns following the announcement, as films are often co-produced internationally. While the latest tariff threat is not new, with Trump mentioning the idea once in May, the recent announcement carries renewed weight as the administration claims it is actively moving toward implementation. In Europe, Moldova's ruling pro-European party has secured a parliamentary majority in Sunday's elections, reaffirming the country's push toward the European Union. With over 99% of the ballots counted on early Monday, Moldova's Party of Action and Solidarity, led by President Maia Sandu, captured approximately 50% of the vote, winning about 55 out of 101 seats in parliament. That gives the party the rare ability to govern without forming a coalition. The Patriotic Electoral Bloc, a Moscow-leaning alliance headed by the country's former president, trailed far behind with a little over 24% of the vote and a weaker showing than expected. EU leaders welcomed the result and praised Moldova for the peaceful conduct of the election. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky praised the result, saying that destabilizing activity from Moscow had failed to sway the people. In Madagascar, President Andry Rajoelina said on Monday that he will dissolve the government following days of youth protests. Thousands of young people have been protesting since Thursday, demanding reliable water and electricity amid nationwide frustration over prolonged power outages. Security forces responded with tear gas, and guards cleared barricades made of rocks and telephone poles. According to the United Nations, at least 22 people have been killed and more than 100 injured. Protesters have also called for the resignation of Madagascar's prime minister and president, accusing them of governance failures. Finally, Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny has been officially confirmed as the headliner for the Super Bowl 60 halftime show, set for February 8, 2026 in Santa Clara, California. The NFL announced the three-time Grammy-winning artist will perform at the event during halftime of Sunday Night Football. Bunny said in a statement that the moment goes beyond myself. He also dedicated the performance to his people, culture, and history.
It's getting quite chilly in the mornings and evenings now, but afternoon temperatures will continue to top around 25 degrees Celsius during the day, making it feel a little warm. So do dress accordingly for a large temperature swing. Skies will be fairly clear with some showers. However, there could be passing rain in central areas in Gyeongsang-Pukto province with less than 5 millimeters in the forecast. And this afternoon, top temperatures will rise to similar levels to yesterday. Seoul, Daejeon, Gwangju will be getting up to 25 degrees. Daegu, Gyeongju, Jeju will be warmer at 26 degrees. October starts on a sunny note, but the long Chuseok holiday starts with rain in southern regions and east of Gangwon-do province. Meanwhile, the temperature difference will remain significant in inland areas for the time being, so please do dress in layers.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.
A country where traditional and modern cultures coexist.
Where you can explore spectacular landscapes and nature.
Savor the delights of traveling at every turn.
Where? Korea, of course.
There are some must-visit places in Korea. Ones that appear in every tour guidebook: Hangang River, Gyeongbokgung Palace from the Joseon Dynasty, and...
Yes, these are essentials, but I want to go somewhere a little different. I don't have to follow the guidebook. For example, filming locations for K-pop music videos or K-dramas and movies.
Traveling is all about taking it slow. A long walk at your own pace, or even zoning out somewhere quiet. Doesn't it sound relaxing?
You travel for the experience, trying something new in a foreign place, de-stressing and making lifetime memories, taking tons of pictures along the way.
70% of the Korean territory is mountainous. Naturally, hiking is a very popular pastime in Korea. Not your kind of activity? Trust me, the view will make the effort worth it. Just catch your breath by the cold stream in the valley.
Korea is surrounded by the sea on three sides. From the beach, you can enjoy a wide open view as well as various water activities. But the riverside is great too. There's plenty to see and do.
If you're in Korea, you can't miss the night view full of dazzling lights.
Yes, even the same place can have a totally different vibe at night.
Want to make unforgettable memories?
How about traveling to all corners of Korea? Join us next time to explore more about Korean culture.
Held its first debate over the weekend.
The economy is expected to expand 2.5% this year.
Boosting Korea's ties with its global partners on the sidelines of the status UN summit. A massive drone attack on Ukraine overnight on Monday and Tuesday.
Arirang.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Tuesday, September 30th here in Seoul. I'm Isujin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Chuyeon.
Good morning, Sujin.
Good morning. Also, Kyun's with us.
Always good to be here.
Good to have you. Both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So as we step into the second day of the work week, many of us might already be thinking about how to recover from a little too much weekend indulgence, especially with the Chuseok holiday coming up soon. That means big family gatherings, endless amounts of delicious food, and usually a few extra helpings we promise ourselves we won't take, but do anyway. And of course, that often brings up the topic of dieting, something almost everyone has probably tried at least once, usually with mixed results. So Cheon, when have you gone on a diet? What kinds of methods did you try, and how did that go for you?
Not once, but multiple times. Well, I think I tried the well-known diets a lot. They from grapefruit ones and both cardio and strength training as well. And also one food diet is quite famous, and also the Danish plan was the thing for me. And out of them all, the Danish diet gave notable results for me, though it's kind of a strict 2-week program, so I only did it twice. But the most effective approach for me has been fasting, taking only water and supplements while prioritizing the protein afterwards. It made me feel lighter, calmer, and more in balance. I still keep up regular strength training and mindful eating today, and keeping my health goals steady. So still training, still eating smart. This is sort of a real long journey and game for me.
Can you tell me more about this Danish plan that you said was really effective?
Danish plan, that is sort of a very dangerous program. You have to stick to the program, stick to a 2-week program. You can only eat certain food like black coffee, toast, and boiled eggs. That is the thing that you have to stick to.
It's interesting. Okay, what about you, Kyun?
So just to break it down, in my 20s, when I started modeling, I tried this lemon detox where you just basically drink 2 liters of lemon water just for 2 days.
That's all you eat?
Just throughout the day. That's all you can drink. It did help me to obviously lose weight, achieve quick results, but that was basically it. Like, there was nothing else to look forward to, because I know food gives you so much pleasure and joy in life, but I lost all that. But I think that was only possible because I had high metabolism in my 20s. Now that I've hit my 30s, mid-30s actually, I chose happiness over looking beautiful to impressing other people. So I would eat more healthy food, sleep more if I can, because it's unbearable to stay awake when you're really hungry. And I think just eating healthy, exercising more, and I really appreciate eating good food because it makes you feel better. So I'm not so into dieting, like hardcore diet, whereas it's more about just maintaining a well-balanced diet and just feeling happy about myself.
But don't you always also feel that it's easier to keep the weight off?
It is. It's much easier to keep the weight off, but if you do gain weight, there's so many side effects, and you know the health problems that comes with gaining weight. So look, if you need to lose weight, fasting is a great option, like just Chuan said, but then you need to be aware of what nutrients you're actually not taking or taking. So
right.
And we have a lot of information out there, so you got to just keep yourself very aware of what you're doing to your body.
Right, I agree. So as you mentioned, there are so many different approaches when it comes to dieting, from cutting back on carbs to intermittent fasting, just to hitting the gym harder. And recently, one particular type of weight loss method has been generating a lot of buzz, not just here, but all around the world. So let's take a closer look.
We've all had those moments, feeling guilty after overeating or simply wishing we were closer to our ideal weight. Gaining weight seems to happen overnight, but losing it can feel like a long and difficult journey. That's part of the reason weight loss medications have surged in popularity, particularly among Hollywood celebrities. But that also raises serious questions about the possible side effects. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at the booming obesity drug market, why it's especially popular among young people, and what users need to watch out for even after they start taking it.
So as we just saw in the video, obesity drugs are no longer just a medical treatment. They've become a social phenomenon, sparking conversations about health, beauty standards, and even accessibility. The market is booming, especially among younger people looking for quick fixes. And since dieting is something everyone pays attention to these days, can you tell us just how big the weight loss drug market has grown, Jian?
It is huge indeed. It is booming right now. The anti-obesity drug market has expanded at an astonishing pace as obesity becomes a true global health issue. So over 1 billion people worldwide are now classified as overweight, and in Korea alone, nearly half of men and 1 in 5 women in their 30s have a BMI over 25, which is a body mass index, that is. And over 25, hitting 25 means that you are overweight. So this is kind of a problem. And because of the related health problems that it has and complications, more countries now treat obesity as a medical condition that must be managed, not a lifestyle choice. As a result, more than 170 obesity drugs are in development right now. And the global market is forecast to rise from $9 billion last year to over $100 billion by 2030. And this number keeps going up and up every time experts update their forecasts. So from diet to dollars, it's a heavyweight industry now.
So these are really staggering numbers. More than 1 billion people worldwide struggling with obesity. And looking at Korea specifically, nearly half of men in their 30s are considered overweight by BMI standards, which is not always exact, but it's kind of unexpected, especially because that is really a huge proportion of the population. With numbers like that, it's no surprise that demand for new solutions is skyrocketing. And recently, some people have even called certain products miracle weight loss drugs. So what exactly are these products, Kian?
So the product, often called the miracle obesity drug, has emerged recently. Interest has surged worldwide thanks to the dramatic weight loss of well-known entrepreneurs celebrities and influencers, including Oprah Winfrey to Elon Musk and many other celebrities even here in Korea. So according to those who have used it, it doesn't completely suppress appetite. What it does is it makes you feel full for a longer period of time with smaller amount of food. So it pretty much, you eat less and you feel full for a longer time. That's how it works. And many have reported that it goes beyond reducing appetite to lessening their desire to drink or even smoke. And some even said even reduced your impulsive spending, which I find it quite interesting and odd. But I have seen many friends around me who've actually taken these miracle obesity drugs. I saw them like lose a lot of weight, but then they've been telling me like there are side effects, which we'll talk about later, but then it helps them lose weight immediately, but then it's really hard to just continue to lose that weight. So it kind of stops after a while, and then they say to lose more weight, they need to exercise, but they don't have the energy to actually
they're not eating.
to exercise more. So there are definitely downsides to these drugs, but they definitely work.
So it sounds like for the weight to continue to stay off, they need to keep injecting themselves in?
Correct, which means more money.
Yes,
continuous payments.
So I've also heard a lot about these drugs lately. You see photos of celebrities looking almost half the size that they used to be, and there's so many reports that credit that transformation to these so-called miracle weight loss drugs. So why do they seem to be so much more popular than traditional appetite suppressants or weight control pills, June?
That is a very good question. Well, what makes these new weight loss medicines so popular, including the miracle one, is that it's convenient and they have their impressive results. And depending on the drug, they can help people shed 15 to 25% of their body weight, far more than most traditional methods, such as hunger control pills developed to curb and lower food intake. But historically, such treatments were widely criticized for their side effects, including depression and insomnia. And on the other hand, the latest treatments show far greater safety and a much broader range of clinical studies. With just one injection a week, the convenience factor is also a big draw. If safety continues to be confirmed, I would be open to trying it too. And let's be honest, the pressure of beauty norms here in Korea is hard to escape. So weekly shots and daily confidence.
Do you think the fact that it's weekly is a plus, or do you think that's still often?
I think it's too often. One shot a month will be good, though. I'm not sure about that, though.
So losing 15 to 25% of your body weight is really impressive. That's far more than what most traditional diet drugs could achieve. And taking the drug just once a week it still makes it more convenient for people to stick with the treatment. So it's easy to see why so many people, including myself, actually are paying attention to these drugs and the effects that they are having. And we often hear about these drugs making headlines in Hollywood, celebrities supposedly using them to achieve dramatic transformations, but that makes me wonder, how widely are they being used here in Korea?
So South Korea ranks 4th largest market in the world in terms of global sales of obesity treatments. So let's take a look at the screen for more details. So in the first half of this year alone, there were over 1.14 million obesity drug prescriptions. And at the current pace, the figure is expected to rise by 26% compared to last year, which was around 1.8 million prescriptions. So while obesity rates are relatively high among men in their 30s, Korea overall has the second lowest obesity rate among OECD nations, and with a population of just around 15 million, the prescription numbers are quite striking. And in terms of prices, they vary widely depending on the type and the dosage, ranging from about 300,000 won to 500,000 won per month. But it's an amount considered quite expensive considering you have to make ongoing payments, monthly payments. Nevertheless, some people use these drugs for dieting, while others hope for benefits such as longer lasting energy or even improved concentration. However, on the flip side, there have been rising concerns of misusage of these drugs, including doctors who would actually prescribe prescribe these drugs to people who don't really necessarily need them for medical purposes, just to, I guess, make extra sales on, on a personal level.
I've heard like a lot of these drugs are actually used for example, like diabetes. Then people use it to lose weight, which has been kind of controversial. So it's clear that people in Korea also have a strong interest in weight loss drugs, with over 1.14 million prescriptions just the first half of this year, and a projected 26% increase over the last year, and these numbers truly are staggering. So to get a broader perspective, we reached out to our viewers on the Arirang News YouTube channel and asked, would you ever consider trying a weight loss injection? Only 13% said they would consider taking a weight loss injection, while 16% said they'd only do so if a doctor recommended it. Another 16% said maybe, but only once the side effects are better known, and more than half, 55%, said they wouldn't take it at all. So that's a pretty strong majority saying no. More than half of respondents wouldn't consider taking these drugs. It's interesting that while only 13% said yes, a combined 32% left the door open if a doctor recommended it or if more was known about the side effects. So that kind of suggests that people want reassurance. So to learn more about this, we're going to speak with a medical expert who will walk us through who really needs obesity medication, the potential benefits beyond weight loss, possible side effects, and the safest ways to use these drugs. That conversation will take place right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Dr. Alice Tan, an internist at Ms. Medi Women's Hospital. Hi, Dr. Tan. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. So who are the patients that truly need weight loss medication? And beyond just weight loss, are there additional benefits such as improvements from lifestyle changes?
Well, the two medications that have most recently come to market are tirzepatide and semaglutide, and these are medications in a class called the GLP-1 receptor agonists. And these medications are indicated for people who are overweight or obese. In other words, you mentioned this before, a BMI of 30 kilograms per meter squared or greater, or a BMI of 27 or greater if there is at least one other obesity-related condition, such as high blood pressure or high cholesterol or diabetes. The reason why these medications were approved and why we feel we need to treat obesity is because obesity and overweight have been associated with the leading causes of death, namely heart disease, diabetes, and stroke. In terms of other beneficial effects other than weight loss, this is an actually very interesting development since these medications have come to market. And what we found is they seem to also have a heart protective effect and a kidney protective effect for people who have fatty liver disease and who are on these medications for weight loss. Their fatty liver disease also improves. We've seen improvement in blood pressure and in cholesterol profile, and also a decrease in inflammation as well. So definitely these medications do what they're supposed to do in terms of decrease weight, but there does seem to be what we call a pleiotropic effect. In other words, effects beyond just the weight loss, beyond just the blood sugar control, because as you mentioned, these medications were first developed to treat diabetes, and weight loss was seen as a side effect initially. But now when we use these medications in people without even diabetes, we're noticing that they have other protective effects for the heart and the kidney, and we're just waiting to see what other organs they may affect as well.
Okay, we're just going to ask you that question, Dr. Tan. So what are the possible side effects of these drugs, and what risks should people be aware of if the medication are misused?
Well, let's start with the most serious side effect that has been associated with these medications, and that's death. So in the UK, there was a study published in February 2025 that reported 82 deaths related to the use of these medications in their government registry for side effects. Likewise, in the US, the FDA adverse effects reporting system recorded more than 100 deaths related to the use of semaglutide and also a large number of deaths related to the use of tirzepatide. Now, just because there is an association of the deaths doesn't mean that the drugs cause the death, but we do need to be aware that this is a potential side effect. Other severe potential side effects include pancreatitis, gallbladder disease, stomach paralysis, gallbladder disease I mentioned as well. And then because of the stomach paralysis, it's important because these are once a week injections. They last for a week once you inject them. It's important that if you're going to get a surgical procedure where you need to be under anesthesia, that these medications are stopped at least 1 to 2 weeks before the procedure, because otherwise, if you eat something, say 3 days before the procedure, even though you're fasting for 24 hours before the procedure, the food can stay in your stomach because you could have very slow movement of the gut. More common side effects that are less severe include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, sometimes constipation. We should also mention, though, that there are 10 to 17% of patients who use this drug for whom this medication does nothing. They are called the non-responders. And so the only side effect for them, you mentioned this, is the cost. So they're now maybe, 500,000, 1 million Korean won, the poorer for having tried this medication that unfortunately did not work for them.
Okay, well, losing weight is just the beginning. What precautions should patients continue to take even after completing the course of the medication?
That's a very interesting question, because when you say completing the course, there are many proponents of this medication, especially the drug companies, that say that obesity is a chronic disease, just like blood pressure, and just like we take blood pressure medications really for the rest of our lives, in many cases, that this medication should also be taken indefinitely. The reason why is because many of the studies show that once a person discontinues this medication, all the weight that was lost, most of it does end up coming back. And so they may have to go back on the medication just to maintain the weight loss. So what this tells me as a clinician, and I do prescribe these medications, is that it's really, really important for my patients to understand that it was not a weight gain diet that got to their current state of being obese or overweight. And so they shouldn't expect a weight loss medication or a weight loss diet per se to get them to being healthy. What needs to happen is a healthy lifestyle, a habit of healthy eating, a habit of adequate exercise. And that's the most important thing that they need to continue to do while they're on this medication, because in my opinion, I would like for them to get off the medication. And the facts show that many patients do end up discontinuing the medication after 1 year or 2 years. And so in order to prevent the weight gain that's going to happen after discontinuation, they really need to make sure that they have healthy habits in place. The other concern is muscle loss, muscle mass loss with these medications. That's also a well-known side effect. And it's muscle that burns calories. And so if you are losing a lot of muscle as a result of this medication, it's just going to be that much harder for you to try to keep that weight off once you discontinue. So I highly encourage my patients to make sure they're doing at least 150 minutes of exercise per week. And a lot of that exercise needs to be weight resistance exercise so that they can maintain their muscle mass.
I think you gave us all a lot to think about, especially for people who think this might have been a quick fix. So thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just spoke with a medical expert, gave us an in-depth look at who really needs obesity medication, the benefits beyond just weight loss, potential side effects, and how to use these drugs safely. So after hearing all of that from Dr. Tan, has your perspective on dieting and weight loss medications changed, Ki-Yoon?
Yes, I've never really thought of actually paying money to get these kind of diet medications. So instead, I would just want to use that money to buy a really nice meal good food, healthy food, and use that energy to actually exercise more and to maintain my muscles, because just like what Dr. Tan said, if you have less muscle, it makes it harder for you to actually burn the calories. So I'm going to maintain my muscles from now on to help me actually manage my body so that I feel happy both inside and outside.
I think that really goes with what she was saying as well. So what about you, Chian?
Don't misuse it. Don't you misuse it is the most important problem that, you know, a big problem for people. And talking about weight loss, I do think that, you know, people care about their appearance so much. So if you are going to lose weight, think about your health at the same time.
I agree. So I think it's so easy to think that this will be a quick fix or solution, but it's really obvious that it's not. You need to still know how to be healthy, to eat well as well. So whether you call them miracle drugs or not, they've certainly sparked a lot of debate and captured global attention. And as research continues and the market grows at a rapid pace, the real challenge will be making sure these treatments are used safely and wisely. So stronger education, proper medical supervision, and a mindset that prioritizes health over appearance will be crucial in shaping the future of this industry and ensuring that the benefits truly outweigh the risks. So this brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but we'll be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and conversations. A big thanks to Chian.
Thank you for having me.
Coming in, also Kyun.
Thank you for having me as well.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you have the best day. We are News Generation.
Feeling overwhelmed by a busy life without knowing where you are heading.
Realizing your mind has gone completely blank.
If you need
some time and space.